So Betty, I'll just, at the board's request, I've asked the chief and deputy to attend this evening to discuss the additional position they are recommending in the budget.
Okay,
So I told them to
And-
be here for first, so that you could hear from them and then make your decisions.
all right, because I would have gone to them if it was easier. Who was going to present the reasons you need a new police officer?
Well, we both are, I'll start. I had written up a little page that I had given to the finance committee when they started their negotiation, or their talking about our, budget request. And the police department currently employs 9 full-time police officers, including the command staff and the chief. I strongly believe that there is a need for 11 full-time officers. However, due to the current economic climate, I'm only requesting 1 new officer rather than 2 at this time. The base salary for a full-time patrolman at step 1 in FY 2016 will be $52,373.83. With the contractual 10% midnight shift differential, the salary increases to $57,438.79 annually. The cost to fill 1 open, full-time 4-2 schedule with a reserve police officer is $36,892.80 annually. The difference in cost to have a full-time officer compared to a reserve officer is $20,454.99. If a new full-time officer is approved, $36,892.80 can be deducted from the reserve patrolman line item. The police department is currently filling 2 full-time 4-2 patrol schedules with reserve police officers. There are 488 scheduled open shifts annually being filled with part-time police officers. This does not include all of the open shifts due to the full-time officers' vacation, time due, and holidays that need to be covered. I feel that the reserve officer's primary responsibility should be to fill in when needed, not to be permanently scheduled for patrol coverage on a regular basis. This is an increased liability to the town, the more the part-time officers are used in place of full-time officers. The difference in the level of training that the officers receive is paramount. The full-time police academy encompasses 820 hours of training compared to the reserve intermittent academy that is only 330 hours. Another very important point is that most part-time officers have a full-time civilian job and are not vested in the police department or the community they serve. As far as the need and justification to add more full-time police officers, I would like to point out that the town of Groveland had 8 full-time police officers from approximately 1989 until 2008, when I increased the force to 9. In 2012, the former finance director was in agreement to increase the police force to 10, but unfortunately at that time, the state stopped funding their share of the education incentive program known as the Quinn Bill, and my request was tabled. The need to increase the number of full-time officers on the police force continues to be a priority, and that can be backed up by our significant and steady increase in the call volume. Since 2005, the police department's calls for service, which are coded Assist Citizen and Officer Wanted, have increased from 925 calls to 5,828 calls. This is just one astonishing statistic, and many others can be cited if necessary. That's my plea.
I just wanted to speak on, just to add a little bit to what the chief said, that besides those 488 open shifts, I looked last year, and it includes vacation time, sick time, court time, officers being out injured. There can be many reasons, but we had another 444 open shifts. So last year, we had 932 roughly shifts filled by reserve officers. It's getting so that we're putting too much strain on our reserves. We already have 10 with one officer's retired and just does details, another one's a dispatcher. We only have 8, so now we're trying to find more. There is no retention plan to keep reserves in Groveland. They don't get paid a lot of money, and they get no benefits. It's become real problematic just trying to fill the shifts, and I don't think a lot of people realize that many shifts in Groveland are filled with just reserves. Sometimes many cases, there's no full-time officer on duty, just because we don't have the extra manpower. So it's becoming an issue with scheduling, and again, the demand that we're putting on our reserves to go out there and really have the same responsibility and duties as full-time officers. The mandates for training have gotten worse over the years. We're trying to keep up with that with our reserve officers. And most of our reserve officers have full-time civilian jobs, so some might come in and work only 1 day a week, where others may work 40 hours a week. It's quite a juggling act to keep the shifts filled and utilize what we have, but under these conditions, we're looking for a few more reserves right now, just because we don't want to be paying our reserves overtime, and we don't want them to be in that position to be collecting benefits, so. That's all I have for now.
You answered one of my questions. My question was gonna be to you, was that at any given time, or any given shift, is there strictly a reserve officer on covering that shift?
Yes.
Or is a reserve officer and a patrolman together on the shift? So if you're gonna tell me that, there's a shift out there, and we only have a, reserve officer on that shift period, that would put a flag up with me. I mean, I read this today, I read this narrative today, I honestly didn't read it until today. That kind of puts a little bit of a flag up, and that's what you're stating, that we definitely have, reserves out there all by themselves, in the car, out on the road, and we have reserves covering our town?
Yes, but if I could just explain, with our schedule, like on midnights, we have one full-timer on every shift, but all it takes is for one of those full-timers to take the night off.
Right.
Which happens quite often. A lot of our officers have been around for a while, so they
Yep.
get more vacation time, sick time. They
Do you-
get time due if they go to court, they might want to take comp time. So it's many shifts, and it could be the 3 to 11 shift. On weekends, it could be 2 reserves covering the town.
Yep.
So it's very common.
Right.
Yes.
Do you ever offer that, if that officer's out, do you ever say to another officer that may have the day off, can you cover the shift? An officer, not a part-time, but a regular officer?
Not a lot of officers take advantage of that, but we offer if they want to just take that day, that shift's open and fill it,
Yeah.
then they can take another day off. But
Oh.
that just kind of creates the same problem again,
Okay.
because now they're going
So
to take
it's a
another day
mushroom
off.
effect.
And yeah, so
Okay,
And we don't have money for overtime to cover it that way either.
right, okay. And, one of my last questions was, I got loose with a highlighter. You got 925 calls, up to 5,000 something calls. That seems like an unbelievable amount of calls. I mean, are you even hitting all those calls? I mean, that's a lot of calls. I mean, I know it's over a year's time or whatever, but that's an awful lot of calls.
when we started over 25 years ago, you could be in Groveland and there'd be no calls at times. There's sometimes now that we can't keep up with the calls. We have multiple calls. It's still not out of control, but I'm saying that those are true numbers. And we've seen it just by being here over the years. And this is a vision not of just ours, but retired Chief Ron Weeks had this in his plan, that we needed to add full-timers to the department. And just, again, as
Right.
the chief said, we just haven't had the funding, but it's becoming that the profession is more demanding, the calls are more demanding, the mandates for training, the liability put on all of us. And again, the pay for reserves hasn't been consistent
Right.
with full-timers, because when you add a 2% raise to a reserve that's making $18 an hour, it doesn't add up as quickly as somebody making double that. So the reserves are still, there's a lot expected out of reserves, and we have a great group of reserves, and they're very dedicated, but it's hard. We've lost a few lately. They went to full-time jobs in other towns. Another one just left recently because he's had a second child. He has 2 jobs. They can't keep up with what we need them to do, and we're cycling people through, and it comes at an expense.
So you're saying you're seeing a big turnover with the reserves. How about a turnover as far as the offices, the regular office? You see a big turnover with the regular offices in there?
Almost, we've had one leave recently, went civil service, to a job that he's wanted to take on. The chief can confirm, I don't think any full-time officers ever left.
And-
When you come to work for Groveland, you basically stay here.
Right, right. My last question would be, and this is to me, not to my other selectmen, just so I can make my informed decision. Could you honestly get by with running the department, could you get by for one more year with what you got, and the way you're operating? Could you,
Honestly, yes, we have been getting by that way.
okay,
It's just getting to the point now where,
right.
like I said, 2012, we tried to increase and
Right.
we ran into that.
And I'm being quite frank, and you know how I am. You know, we're at a budget where we're pretty damn tight. So we're trying to, or I am, trying to find and pinch any way I can to find extra money. And I don't wanna put the harm's way into the police department, like I was criticized that I was gonna vote for a ladder truck that might have fatigue. I wasn't, I'm just trying to find any way that I can fill that loophole.
No, I understand, but if we don't ask, we don't get.
No, I understand, I don't blame you, I'm just, you're on your side, I'm on my side, and, you know,
Right,
it's good dialogue.
and it's just getting worse now, the problem is, the deputy said, with losing a few guys, a few good guys to other towns.
Yeah.
And it's tough, it's tough to get, good quality reserves.
I think you answered all my questions, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Now, you said you had the chief, the deputy, and you have 2 sergeants, is that correct?
Yes.
And then, so there's the 4 administrators, I guess you'd call that administrative staff, plus 9 police officers?
It's total 9, including the 4,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I know somebody on the finance committee spoke about training. Is most of the training online training? No one gets sent to academies anymore for training?
Unfortunately, due to the budgets, we found it more economical, but the officers don't like it. It's not our preferred response. It's something they can do when they're working. Takes them off the street, unfortunately, so we're not backfilling. We don't have the money, but they're training online, which I'm not really a proponent of, but it works. It's something we have to do just to get the certifications. If we had the money, we would send them. I think it's healthy to get officers out and see people and get out of
Absolutely.
Groveland and learn and talk to other officers. We used to do it, but
Right,
we've been tight on money, so
built camaraderie.
it's the chief's idea, and it's kept the officers certified, which is good for now.
It saves us thousands a year, doing it this way.
Okay. You have some comments, Joe?
About a month ago, we met for the 3rd time in a year, and we discussed the liability facing our town if a gun goes off during an incident. The first thing they do is they go through records, training, certifications, academy training. The, ranges that we're sorely lacking right now, not available. So to me, I was convinced the day that I read your document that was submitted to Denise, the rationale as to why you needed, I ignored the numbers. I was just looking at the liability issue right off the bat, because we've had 3 discussions, we have concerns. We have massive unfunded mandates from the federal government that we're supposed to have our officers trained to such a degree, and we don't have the money to do it. We don't even have a facility to do it, and that was a discussion we had a month ago. So now we're looking at 2 full-time schedules per day manned by reserve officers. And all of these hours, 488 per year, all of these hours and shifts, therefore, all of this gap and exposure of providing public service to Groveland in a format that would not hold up well if there was a serious incident, very likely. And we would be faced with potentially the suit of millions of dollars. I read the case law that you brought to us, and just like that, a town can get sued even if there was a legitimate reason for an officer to shoot a gun, the most legitimate, against the baddest person he can find out there. We could find ourselves in deep trouble if he's slightly off on how much training he had, or whether or not he had not gone to a range and get the necessary. So for me, the decision was made for non-financial reasons: better public service, better public safety, more consistency, and closing that liability gap is why I've already decided, and I stated last night, that I'm in favor of this position. Now, financially, there is a bit of an investment. If we do take back 36,008 from the reserves, in other words, we don't have to spend money to hire reserve officers, and we bring in 57, the difference is, I think, a very manageable and a reasonable 20,454. We do potentially need to add somewhere around 10,000 for insurance if that person elects to go with insurance. So the real cost to our town is probably not 24, it's probably more like 30,500. But we can balance this budget, and I'll show you, everyone, my position as to how we can do it, and it does accommodate your request, and I appreciate you bringing this request forward, because I read it, but I wanted people to hear it tonight. I'm thankful that Betty invited you in last night. It's a spot decision, I didn't expect it, I didn't ask for it, I'm thrilled to find out that she had made that decision and that you were willing and capable to come in and articulate it. But again, I feel safer with more full-time officers than I will with the reserve. Not to take anything away from the reserve, they're hardworking people, very, very dedicated. We get a heck of a lot from those guys, we know that. But it's the liability, it's the world we live in that keeps me up at night. And we can't deliver quality service to this town and have this gaping liability out there if something bad happened. And you know, bad things happen, right? A month ago, we were also talking about, Betty had gone to a seminar, we're real serious about the drug issue. This town is in the middle of 2 major highways for drug trafficking. We know this. There's drug activity in this town. We know this. We're talking about Narcan, and then we don't have enough officers to do all this stuff. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I commend you for coming in. Thank you, Betty, for allowing this really important presentation. It just seals the deal for me from 2 or 3 weeks ago that we have to have this position that you've requested.
Thank you. Just one thing, if I could add too, when you're speaking of training and officers, with our limited training budget, and we discussed with the finance committee, years ago, training was free, at least the cost of the class, you know, you always had to pay an officer to go. Well, in recent years now, we get charged for classes. You know, everyone's tight on money, so not only does it cost money to send an officer, we have to pay for the class, and we prioritize by sending our full-time officers there. So a lot of the reserves want to go to these extra classes, and we say, we're sorry, there's just no money. So it's just another thing to keep in mind, full-time versus reserve.
Do you think it's a liability to have those part-time auxiliary officers on the road?
It's a necessary liability. And I mean, they do, as we all say, they do a great job, but it's less liable to have a full-time officer more fully trained. It just, you know, black
And
white.
you couldn't possibly fill all the shifts without them anyway.
Absolutely not.
So if you were to add one officer's gonna help, really, you could use 11 or whatever you said earlier. I mean, that would be the great thing to have, but no matter what we do, we're gonna still have reserve officers no matter what we do.
Right.
Right. Do you think it'd be better to focus spending money on training rather than an officer?
Well, the problem with that is the part-time officers come and go. So you could spend a lot of money training a guy.
Oh, I got you.
And he could leave next
Gone,
week.
right.
You know, a lot of these guys take the civil service test, and they have resumes in other departments, and they're just waiting for that call to go
Right.
full-time somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. This should tend to promote stability in staffing as well.
Right.
Good point. Betty, if you had any
Okay.
other thoughts or anything?
No, I'm happy that, they came in, both of them. I know that you've made up your mind what you want to do. I think, we have a lot to think about. Our finance committee is still deliberating about what they're going to do, and we won't hear from them until maybe Thursday. Warrant has to be printed.
On Friday.
It has to be printed on Friday. We have to meet a deadline. So, thank you both for coming over.
Thank you for considering it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to make a statement right now, and I don't know how my board feels, but in view of everything that's been going on the past several days with warrant articles and flyers and
Petitions?
petitions and on and on and on, people, you know, having deadlines when I should be hearing from campaign finance, when I should be talking with other state agencies. I'm not ready to do anything this evening except table what we have before us until tomorrow. I don't know how you people feel about that.
You mean to me, the vote for the budget?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're meeting tomorrow night, executive session.
Well, we'll have to stay later. I don't know, it's up to you. I'm just stating, it's just been very,
Do you need more time to study the budget?
no, I just need some time to sort out some things that have presented themselves in the past few hours.
Okay, I don't know what those are, but I absolutely would support you on that. I probably would still like to go over the budget and discuss some aspects of it,
Sure.
but if you're not ready to vote,
No,
I'd be in favor of supporting you as the chair, but we gotta wrap it up tomorrow night.
Okay. I would ask, is there any part of the budget you'd rather just not talk about it? Is a special, any of it we can do tonight, you just don't feel comfortable? You want more time for the whole thing?
You know what's bothered me? Petitions here, petitions
I
there.
understand, I understand.
Some people will wait and see, some people that I didn't even think would present a petition, I thought we had more or less given their project a blessing. I just don't wanna go into town meeting in such disarray.
So you want another day?
It'd have to be
If
worked.
I may just, you don't have time to post a meeting for tomorrow night.
I don't,
You would have to meet Thursday.
okay, and you're away on Thursday?
I am not here on Thursday.
Okay, all right,
But you can certainly meet and vote,
mm-hmm,
but you won't meet the deadline for open meeting requirements for tomorrow night.
Thursday is,
And at this point, you couldn't meet until 7 o'clock on Thursday, because
No.
we're at 6:30 right
we,
now.
Right.
I'm a very loyal soldier of our board of selectmen, but I have 3 client meetings
I understand,
Thursday.
I understand.
We've been, this is our 5th 4-hour meeting in a week.
Cool.
Not complaining, I did make time for clients on Thursday.
Yeah, I understand.
And I said, before I knew that, I said I would support you on that, but we can't do it tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night you're busy.
No,
No,
we
tomorrow night
can't
you're
do it
here,
because.
but we don't have enough time.
We can't,
Unfortunately, you don't have
yeah,
enough time.
tomorrow night, I would stay
Alright.
here till midnight, I would get it done, I wouldn't care, but now we can't, we've missed the
Because
posting
the
deadline.
meeting that's posted is strictly an executive session for tomorrow evening.
Thursday morning, I don't know, can we do it in the morning?
You don't meet that deadline
It'd
either
be
for
7
Thursday
o'clock
morning.
at night. Yeah,
Are you comfortable with everything in front of you at this point?
I am. I've read,
I mean, that's
I'm-
why I
I'm-
was late.
I'm-
People were still calling me and wanted to know what I had learned from campaign finance and what I had learned from another state agency. And I don't have any answers for them. And these are people that are kind of really charged up and,
I think what happens is every year this comes down to the wire right before, and it's, unfortunate, you know what I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm good to go with it. Any way you look at it, it's not gonna be an easy decision, whatever you vote, cause it's not gonna be popular however you go, but you gotta do your best, put your best foot forward and
Well-
hope you make the right decision and.
I have a compromise. We should vote the budget tonight, but we don't have to vote the warrant articles. Other than just, we know that we're gonna allow them all on except for 17.
Yeah, that would
We
be
don't
fine.
have to
I don't
tonight,
care
we
about
don't
the
have to decide favorable action or unfavorable
warrant.
action.
I think everyone knows how I feel about the warrant articles.
That's correct, so you could take a vote as a whole to put the entire
Yeah, we'll
warrant
just put
forward.
everything on except for 17,
Certainly could.
and then we can always decide.
They're gonna be voted anyway, right? Am
Well,
I correct?
I would hope that you would support me and that we don't make a decision 1 hour before town meeting, but we can certainly vote the warrant, decide whether we're gonna be favorable or unfavorable, or the people's will. There's a third choice called the people's will, the will of the people. We can do that on the 21st, on just the warrant. So tonight, Betty, that might be a good compromise to give you some comfort. We do the budget, but we leave the warrants alone. because we can
Sure.
do that, we can
Mhm.
pull
Sure.
that.
Yes, I would
Right.
just say you should
Good.
vote to put the entire warrant as presented,
Yeah,
and then you
But-
could meet another night or the 21st to actually make your recommendations.
oh, okay, even the Article 17, then we can leave that on?
Well, you could, I mean, you could vote to put it on minus that, I mean, that's been
Minus that,
withdrawn,
yeah.
so you could easily say
So
everything else.
at town meeting, we certainly can say this article was withdrawn by the,
Well, you could do that tonight, you could say you'd like to put the entire special town meeting and annual town meeting as presented, with the exception of Article 17,
17, yeah.
which was withdrawn.
Yeah, that's all.
And then it would appear exactly as presented, and then you would still meet prior to town meeting and make your vote, so that on town, the night of town meeting, you are speaking as a board, how you would
Right,
vote.
'cause we
You
have
could
to
certainly do that,
We have to establish a position on each one and defend it, whether
correct.
we're favorable or unfavorable. That, we can skip that tonight.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm gonna ask it slowly.
Andy has a
If you took
question.
this warrant is going before, it's going before no matter what. These articles,
If we decide, ultimately.
so
With-
if, limit. If we do not decide,
Yeah.
if we do not decide on these articles,
Okay,
I thought they were going no matter what.
no, no, no.
So if we decide right now, if I say,
There's
and
two
we vote
mechanisms.
in
Well,
two
let
of
me
the
expl-
articles.
There's two mechanisms. One of them is to decide whether or not we allow the article at town meeting. The second thing is, for those that we do allow, whether we feel favorable or unfavorable with the article. So the easiest thing to do is to let everything except Article 17 out, put it out there.
Okay, can I just talk, please? What I'm
Well,
trying to
you're
find out is, it's simple. Do these articles all go on no matter what?
No, so let me clarify.
So I think we should vote.
On the annual town meeting warrant, I received today citizens petitions on the community preservation articles, on all of them with the exception of Article 17, which
Yep.
was requested to be withdrawn.
Right.
And the rail trail.
Okay, so the citizens petitions now say they go
They
no
go on
matter.
regardless.
So you can
Regardless of
scratch
how
them.
you vote,
You can
those will
scratch
go
those.
to
They're
the.
done. It's a done deal. Why talk about it? It's done.
That is correct.
They got their petitions. It's moving forward.
That
So
is correct.
personally, I don't need a vote on it. I don't. It's done. It's there.
But
Point
the
of-
rest of the articles, so that's only
Right.
the community preservation
I
articles.
understand. I
Correct.
clearly
Point
understand.
of
So now
order.
we have some other articles that we need
That
to
is
cover
correct.
still.
Point of order, we have to tell, the purpose of town meeting, this board has very little authority at the town meeting. The town meeting, our only role at town meeting is to advise town meeting how we feel about this stuff. Same thing, FinCom will have the same ability. They'll be able to tell the people what their position is and suggest how they should vote on it. But ultimately, it's not our decision, it's not FinCom's, it's town meeting. So whatever warrant articles are allowed at town meeting, whether they're allowed because we allow them, or whether allowed because they exist at town meeting because of a petition, does not make any difference. We still owe the people of Groveland our opinion as to whether we're favorable or unfavorable on every single one of those. And sometimes those decisions aren't made until an hour before. I'm hoping that we don't do that this year, that we have a more thoughtful approach. In fact, I would even welcome a joint meeting with FinCom on the night that we make a final decision.
we usually do. Andy?
Andy, you
please
had a
identify
question.
yourself and your address, please.
Yeah, my name's Andy Wiles. I'm a member of the FinCom, but I'm really speaking for myself because we're not in session. I live at 288 Main Street here in Groveland, obviously. Perhaps it's my misunderstanding about how some of these things work. But if you vote tonight to put the warrant articles on the warrant, that's your decision that you approve them. It's done, okay?
So it's, the default is favorable, is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If I may just, that is accurate, but that's not how the standard has been here. The standard has been all the articles, and then the selectmen still votes on town meeting floor, which is the approach they have taken. So they could do it that way if they still so choose.
Also, the budget that's being presented is the FinCom's budget, a balanced budget, okay? So, when the town votes on whether they want that article approved, line by line, they're approving or disapproving the FinCom's budget.
Right.
So, kind of regardless of what you guys decide, whether we have a new police officer or not, it's really the FinCom's budget that they're gonna be voting on. Now, I've never sat in a meeting at this late stage with the selectmen, because it never seemed to happen before. But, okay, I guess that's all I have to say. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it was a couple of meetings ago, you had alerted all of us that the law, and we actually got an opinion on it to verify it, because that's not been my experience, but the law is very clear. If the Board of Selectmen decides to allow a warrant article on, that's it, we're done. We shouldn't, it's redundant, I agree with you. We shouldn't even be asked the question favorable or unfavorable. However, that created a firestorm of controversy in the last week, and all we had done was just ask for a legal opinion on something that maybe you're one of 3 people in Groveland that actually knew this, so I commend you for bringing that to our attention. However, for the last 60 years or so, the tradition has been, as now that I see that it's redundant, the tradition is we decide to allow a warrant on the floor at town meeting, and we still decide if it's favorable or unfavorable. So that's what Denise calls sort of the tradition. It's technically wrong, but we're not ready to change from that system at this hour for this year. So I respect what you're saying. What you brought up was really important, because I didn't know anything about it, because my experience has only been what we're used to, that a warrant article is being discussed, and then, how do you rule Board of Selectmen favorable or unfavorable, which now I realize there's a redundancy to that. To allow that, the law would also says that if you have that mechanism, which is the law, even though we don't follow it, as long as you have a petitioning mechanism to allow warrant articles that are knocked down to reemerge at town meeting. So you brought up a really good point, I really appreciate it, and we got into a real tussle with some really angry people and emails and all kinds of nasty stuff, when all we had done was, hey, you know what, Andy came up with something I didn't know anything about. I don't think a lot of people in Groveland didn't know much about, and we decided to get legal counsel, an opinion on it, but we're not, doesn't seem like this board is ready to do it exactly the way you're saying. On the warrant articles,
Bring up a point.
yeah, so,
Can I ask a question
good point.
to Denise? What is the legal, do you know the legal way of doing this? Is the legal way, what is the actual legal way of doing it?
The legal way is the Board of Selectmen votes to put articles on or not on the warrant. That is the method. With town meeting, that is the law, that's the statutory
So
authority.
we've made everyone in this town, abide by the laws, we should abide by the law. I should, and I don't know what's going on, I think I should abide by the law. So I wanna abide by the law, whatever the law is, I wanna do what the law says and stick with it. I don't wanna bend from the law.
All right, so if any of these articles we don't like, we vote against them. Well, actually, some of the articles that we potentially could vote against, they're still gonna be on town meeting, because now there's petitions to support them,
That's correct.
right?
That's
Exactly right.
And
That's
they
right.
had their right to do that.
That's right, that's good, that's democracy at its best, that's good. Andy, you had a question?
So those petitions that came forward in the last 48 hours or whatever it was, you have no choice to allow or not allow them on the.
That's right.
That's right.
Ten,
And are some of them worded exactly the same as the warrant articles that are already on?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, we,
So how does that work? I mean, do we vote on a redundant warrant article?
No, so the way it's appeared in the past here on your warrants is, it would say, articles submitted by Community Preservation Committee and by citizens petition. That's how the warrant has read in the past when this occurs. Town council's opinion, when I asked them to weigh in, on the statutory authority of the Board of Selectmen, I asked them also about citizens petition. It requires 10 signatures for an annual town meeting prior to the close of the town meeting warrant. So they had until the board votes on the warrant this evening to submit their citizens petition.
Right. And if they decide not to make a decision tonight, but to squeeze it in Thursday night, other petitions could come forward.
Yes, they could.
I guess, yeah, if they saw that we weren't supporting something,
Or if they just
Okay.
wanted to get something else in.
that's right. It seems like, you think, yeah, I guess you could. So,
well, remember, the compromise solution is only to accommodate your request. I was ready to vote for everything tonight, regardless, so.
I think what Betty's alluding to, that she's putting it, being put up to a hard spot where she wants to do what she wants to do, it sounds like to me, and now probably, I'm worried that we're doing the right thing here.
That's good to worry about that.
Good, I'm sorry. sorry, one more.
Go, Andy.
No, go ahead.
So let's say hypothetically, Joe, you folks decide that really the 2 offices are needed, okay? Are you also prepared to come forward and determine how we can balance our budget?
The request was for 1. I think the budget shows that 1 could be hired, full-time officer, right? There's, the highway department wants 1.5 people.
2,
Two,
they requested 2.
2,
2. Oh,
Yeah,
2.
two, yeah.
2. Oh,
half a
okay.
person at the cemetery.
Half a person is what we have on the
Part-time
board.
person. Who else has a request on there?
We have cemetery that needs a
Half a
part-time
person.
position,
They
and
need
highway department wants 2
Part-time
people.
people.
Highway department wants a
So
full.
you think somebody could come with a citizen's petition and say, let's hire 2 full-time police officers?
I guess they could,
Come
couldn't
with
they?
their
Yeah.
10 signatures? No?
Well, they can't affect the operating budget, they can affect warrant articles, not,
Can add another article, they
Okay.
can add another article, they can't mess with the main
Right, so-
budget, they
but-
can mess with the articles.
to answer your question, the board is prepared tonight, whatever they vote, to present a balanced budget to the FinCom. Their recommendations, whatever they decide, is to present a balanced budget to you all.
No, that's my last question. Why do we have a FinCom?
Why do we have a board of selectmen? Let people just stay at
Okay.
home and write articles and come in with
Well, I
citizens
was thinking
petitions.
Only the article that involves our general budget.
It's a good question. I think people do, I think a lot of people that go to town meetings, my experience over the years, especially, even at the school committee, they push themselves to come and vote and raise their hand or go to the ballot, but they are not capable of doing the homework to the degree that we do. So the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, ultimately, for a lot of people, whether they admit it or not, is the ultimate way that they make a choice.
Thanks, Joe. I understand.
I will state what Mr. Wild just said. I'm a landscaper. I'm a selectman. I'm not a finance guy, and I can sit and put what he presents in front of me, and I can do my due diligence to look that piece of paper over, knowing that him and his committee did it. I really don't have the ability to go back, other than what's presented to me, and do my due diligence, no more than I am to hire a chief, a fire chief, a police chief. I try to do what I can do, and I rely on their expertise. And I don't wanna, as a selectman, I don't wanna undermine what hard work they've done, no more than any other board in this town, so I wouldn't wanna undermine their hard work. And, something like, it happens with all boards, you can take the zoning board, and if they're not being heard or helped by another department, what's the sense of them coming? It's no different. So, I think as a selectman, myself, I think I should be using that board's discretion and what they brought before me, and then do my due diligence.
We're not gonna have that opportunity because they're not voting the budget until after we vote, potentially.
They presented already,
No,
they
I
presented a budget
No, that's
before
right.
me.
That's right.
See why I wanted to table it? Interesting. Well, do you want to, vote on the budget?
I think we have to.
Yeah.
I think we should. And, we have to
To-
make adjustments, ultimately, see what the FinCom comes back. But I think it's good that we send a message as to what our budget is. It's important.
So, at the town meeting, we're still gonna go with the FinCom budget or our budget?
Finance committee is what presents to town meeting.
Right.
You make your recommendation, so finance can take it under consideration how you voted, but it's
Right.
finance
Okay.
committee, so they may go with a completely different
Sure.
Okay.
Exactly.
recommendation.
That's
It's
what-
their recommendation that goes
Yeah.
and is presented to town meeting.
Terrific.
So the motion would be go with the FinCom's recommendation? No? Which we haven't seen, or what we've presented to them, what they've seen from us? What would be your pleasure?
I'm not following. On what?
On what we need to do tonight in
Oh.
order to clean up this business so you can move forward?
So you should look
We'll hear-
at, so the budget So you have the revenues and the budget, and my recommendations to you. And in that includes some decisions you all wanted to make with regards to, positions.
Okay.
So currently, the way
Look
it
at you,
stands,
Joe, I just grabbed these.
Yeah.
the way it stands with
I'm ready to
all
make a
three
presentation.
positions
We can go together.
and the cemetery part-time included, we have a deficit of $8,300 and change.
Okay,
So whatever is decided this evening, we need to close that deficit and present a balanced budget to the finance committee.
All right, so let me, if you don't mind, Betty, through the chair. I believe we need to have a full-time police officer. I believe that the highway department needs to have a senior and a junior operator. I also believe that the cemetery needs to have the part-time help that has been requested. There are qualitative reasons why the police department needs the staff, which we just reviewed a little while ago. There are also qualitative, meaning non-financial, non-money, non-mathematical reasons why the highway department needs its operators as well. Today, I found my own reason why the cemetery needs its help. I went down there this morning, I took some pictures, which I want to share with the board. We have, the condition of the cemetery today is unbelievable. It has sustained significant damage because of the winter. I saw for the first time, because I've been up there in late fall, knocked over stones. Now, it's one thing when you have a knocked over stone from a gravesite that's 200 years old, but when I saw one that was just 10 or 15 years old, I was stunned by that. We have knocked over signs, we have, my wife and I are gonna commit the next 3 weekends before grass even grows on just raking and getting our lawn raked and cleaned up. We have branches all over the place. I can't imagine how many hours of work is gonna be required at the cemetery before the first blade of grass comes out of the ground. So, when I sit here, we have broken benches. I bottomed out my car on the main road. The rut was so deep, I thought I lost my muffler. I didn't realize next time I'm going there, I'm gonna have to use a Land Rover. And I'm being a little facetious, but it's so easy to just look at numbers and ignore the qualitative side. And for those of us that pride ourselves in being fiscally conservative, what we end up doing is we end up withholding those resources that impact the quality of our life. And the best example of that is the cemetery, which is one of the most starved institutions we have in this town because of fiscal conservatism. People look at numbers, but they don't look at the reality. I don't have a loved one buried at this cemetery, but I know people that do. And so, I vote my conscience before I vote numbers. And my conscience says, we need to deliver quality services. Fiscal conservatism is not a banner that we should just hold on to and forget about our, what I call municipal responsibility. I was stunned by what I found. So we need to make sure that the cemetery has the help that they're asking for. It's $6,000, it's a couple of part-time kids. I'm not saying no to that. And they've got their work cut out. Never mind cutting grass. They've got a lot of work to do, hundreds of hours before the grass even grows. And shame on us as a community if we continue to starve the cemetery financially. Shame on us. I don't have a loved one there. I know people that do. And I'm not gonna say it's disgraceful, because that would be an insult to people that maintain it, including the families that volunteer their time to do so.
I thought that we were coming here tonight to vote on a budget, not sell. I didn't think we were here to sell.
I'm not finished, I have the floor. I am selling the budget. I'm talking about financing, because what I'm talking about, Bill, is I want to make sure that we're making the right decisions, in all due respect. So, I'm now going to show you my version on how we can accommodate the highway department's help, the police department's help, and the cemetery's help. We need to therefore find $8,000, and here is where we can find it. On the selectmen's revenue line, we make a slight adjustment from 6,000 to 7,000, which is actually quite doable, because that 6,000 is very conservative, relatively conservative, by historical measures. On the planning board, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of building going on, so the $6,000 revenue, we could bank on 7,500 potentially coming in. That might even still be conservative, because there's an amazing amount of activity going on right now. People are presenting their plans, and we can say the same thing with the building inspector. We have the biggest boom in building in Groveland right now that we haven't seen in, 10 or 15 years, at least since I've lived here, 1994. So his revenue, through the building inspector, instead of 50,000, I think we can bring in 55,000. And then Denise, I hate to tell you, and I know it's important, but maybe there's some wiggle room elsewhere ultimately, but the computer expenses or expenditures, if we can wiggle that down from 5 to 4,000, that brings in the 8,000. That does what we're supposed to do as a town, make sure we have adequate police, adequate highway coverage. Do you know how many phone calls, Bill, how many phone calls did we get, Betty, this winter? People were clamoring for assistance and attention from the highway department. Okay, including some people getting a little nasty with us. Now we're sitting here, oh, we can't afford to give the highway department what they need for help. Do you remember February, how many phone calls we got? We need to make sure they're fully staffed, with all due respect. So we have to look at the numbers. We want to be fiscally conservative, but we don't want to be fiscally austere, that we're starving the services and the quality of life things that this town needs. So my budget balances: selectmen 6 to 7,000, planning board 6 to 75, building inspector 50,000 to 55, a downward reduction by $1,000 on the computer. We can fund all these positions and everything else. That's my position. Thank you.
Okay. Bill, do you have some thoughts?
My position would be a lot simpler. I would give the highway department one person. I'll give the cemetery, the $6,000 in the, part-time help they're looking for. And I was leaning toward no petroleum, but after they came in tonight and after their talk, I would do the one patrolman. I think they definitely pleaded a good case, and I also think that, after reading their paperwork they had put forth, that's where I'm heading, and I think I can balance the budget just by hopefully trimming out the one highway guy.
Right, I said there's no discussion about the help that's needed at the cemetery, badly needed. You can just take a peek at those photos to know that. The highway department, we just lost a full-time worker to Commonwealth of Mass, I believe. And we hired a new person who I believe has all the necessary licenses. If not, he's working towards those licenses. So if Bob needs more help, I would support one more full-time highway worker with the appropriate licenses.
Would that be the full-time?
The full-time person.
Senior operator?
Senior
Senior.
operator.
Right.
The police department, they've been looking for another officer, full-time. I don't want to diminish the work of the reserve police officers, because if they're good enough for us to hire and put them out there on the road from 11 till 7 and taking risks, don't fool yourself that you think anybody is not in Groveland that's here to rob your house or steal your car or whatever. I applaud the reserve police officers. I think they do a great job. I would like as Bill said, to support the next full-time police officer. Hopefully, he comes with all the training, because that's a budget buster. He would have to have attended an academy, correct?
No, so what we put in place the last time is if they have not attended the academy, we do pay for them to attend, but then they sign a contract that they pay the town back. If they were to leave before they make payment, they owe us. There is a contract that town council put together that follows the statute. The law actually allows us to do that.
When you take a new officer on, they were pleading their case that they wanna have an officer with training and what have you. So you're getting a full-time officer, wouldn't you hope they would have training when they came here, or somewhat training?
Yeah, I mean, that would be obviously the
Right.
preference, but the way they hired the last one is, and they do like to promote from within and using their reserves. But they put together a panel the last time, they evaluated everyone who applied, they ranked them based on a point system, they had an outside, chief, I believe, weigh in on the matter. They did not rank prior training heavily. I mean, it still counted, but it didn't count as much, because now we have council saying that, yes, we would pay up front, but then we would recoup the cost of paying someone to go to the academy.
I would really stress that the next full-time hire come with a community, academy-trained background, because that's several weeks or months, and now who are you calling on? Reserves.
Well, that's the
So-
reason we're here tonight, was what I heard is they needed the person that had the training, the people that, they have training, but not enough training. So I would like to see that they do have the training.
I need some help from any one of you three. If Bob, the highway department, has just the senior operator, not the junior operator, can we operate all the equipment that we own?
Yes, so if he has just the senior operator and not the junior, I spoke to him yesterday, so that would reduce 39,000 and change from his salary line, but we would then have to add back in 10,000 to the
10,000.
part-time line. He would still rely on part-time help for lawn mowing. That was really, the junior operator was going to be dedicated in the summer to really mowing lawns and obviously doing other smaller projects, and then in the winter plowing.
What-
So he could still accomplish that with one full-time and then using part-time help.
When I read the mission statement that he had presented, it sounded to me like it was more mowing, and also, I'm familiar with the department. The department runs with 3 people, and you have a police department that runs with 9 men. I know it's a whole different thing, but you're trying to run a department with 3 people. I would love to be able to give them more people, but this is my way that I feel that I can balance the budget. But at least we give him maybe one this year, and maybe one next year. But at any rate, what equipment he has over there, he will never find enough people to run, period. He won't. He won't be able to plow these streets unless he has 10 guys. He hires a lot of equipment to do this town. So you're not gonna fill the shoes over there no matter what. So I truly feel that in a year's time, we can hopefully come here again and we can give him one more person. So we're working into it. In the same token, we can find some money to put in our coffers to hopefully start building up our reserve. So that's how I feel.
And like I said, he was perfectly fine with that. I did meet with him. I discussed what you had discussed last week, and I went over the options with him. He did tell me, just for information, similar to what the police department alluded to, many years ago, there were 4 full-time highway department people. So somehow along the line, he's lost staff, and now he's looking to get back to that and eventually ask for 1 additional staff member, probably next year. He would come back with that request.
If we don't have the junior operator, then we eliminate even the slightest chance of the highway department helping out the cemetery under any scenario.
No, they currently help out now. So even with the 3 members, they
Okay.
have been assisting the cemetery when needed.
It's actually
So
gonna be easier.
that will continue.
It's gonna be easier?
It's gonna be easier for him to have one more guy to go help the cemetery. It is gonna be easier. And it's gonna, they have the Pines project, I know that they're working on over there. And I know last fall they were over there working, and they were pretty much tied up for help because they were trying to get trucks ready for the winter. They tied the mechanic up in the garage. So, I mean, I think this is definitely gonna help them. And I feel fear. I feel what I did is fear. And I think this is gonna, hey, anything's better than nothing. So I think they should be kudos to the selectmen for helping them in that way.
Well,
Thank you,
I, you guys have articulated well your positions, you heard mine, so I would agree with you. It is satisfactory to me, and it's a compromise on my part, but I want to support the board so that we have one unified decision that's unanimous. I would support a budget that would be balanced by having one senior operator, the full-time police department personnel, and then the part-time wage line that's required for the cemetery. I would support that. Now, we can balance that without the modifications that I made to either the revenue or the expense on the computer side.
Yes, correct. I would recommend if we did not need to increase revenue estimates, we should not.
That's fine, we can go back to
So
that.
yes, so that
We'll
would.
keep them as conservative as they are.
Correct, so that would put approximately 29,000 back in the budget, covering the deficit. We'd have about 20,000 excess. that
Which
if
we
s-
will make believe does not
Well,
exist.
well, and I would say it should remain in there, because if
Right.
state aid, as, you know, the governor's budget right now has a higher unrestricted general government aid. If that number comes in lower from the House or Senate, we're stuck. So that 20,000 really should be left until we have a state budget, a certified state budget.
Then if we never use it, we put it into something like stabilization, or maybe that new fund.
That new fund, that new trust
Right,
fund.
so that extra money could stay there, and at a special town meeting, you could appropriate it, or it would just roll into free cash.
Either free cash or savings.
Correct.
That's a good, that would be a good start to FY 2016.
Yes,
John Gabauer, 83 School Street. I just have one minor point. Weren't you also discussing an administrative assistant? Is this part of this budget?
it is,
I
but
just
that,
want to make sure it was.
it is,
Yeah.
that's included,
Okay,
it is included, right?
They discussed that last week.
Okay.
So I think they took their, they didn't actually vote, but they made their
okay, I
positions
just
on
wanted
it.
to make sure that it was involved. It sounded like it was necessary.
It is, thank you. Okay, so I have a motion that,
You wanna make a motion, Bill?
I'll make a motion that we accept the budget as discussed, with one, minus on the highway department, giving the cemetery their part-time help, and the police department their officer, and we will have a budget with savings.
I'll second that.
Can I just clarify? Are you just voting the positions, or are you voting all
The
of the
whole budget.
recommendations
The entire-
I've presented to you?
Entire budget.
Okay, so you're voting all of the recommendations that I've presented with these three changes?
Right.
Okay.
is there any way to put a caveat in there that we would like that police officer to
Yep, I can certainly ask,
possibly come with
Yes.
academy training?
I can ask that be weighed higher on their point scale.
Will they probably bring that officer before us at one time?
Yeah,
Or
I'm sure
they'll
they
hire
would.
and then bring him?
You have to appoint.
Okay.
So they would recommend for you to appoint.
I'd like to
Okay.
make one more, because this is the discussion before we do the vote. Except for the fire chief, and the assessors, all the employees had a 2% increase.
That is
The
correct.
assessor's request comes in at 3.8, so we're voting that as well, which I'm in favor of. As long as we're clear on that, that's what we're voting, because it's not 2% across the board. We have a 21% increase for the fire chief, effective, based on the fact that we're doing 19 hours instead of 16, multiplied by a 2.5% increase
And adding
of his base salary.
3 hours.
I'm sorry?
We added hours to his
And
job
we added
description.
hours, 19 hours, and then the assessor's salary is 3.8, so.
Yes, and that is all reflected in the numbers, so you
Numbers
don't need
that
to
you
make any
gave us.
adjustments for
And
that.
Terrific.
in clarification, what we basically are going to do in a minute, FinCom either adopts or doesn't adopt.
No,
No, they have their
FinCom
own.
will just take your recommendations and make their own. They may
Okay.
follow what you recommended.
Okay,
But they may come back and say, we want the highway to have two officers,
all right,
two
okay.
people and nothing in the cemetery, or
nothing in
whatever.
the cemetery.
They would make their own recommendations, and that is what goes to town meeting.
Right.
But you will recommend to them how
Okay.
you feel.
well, hopefully they would have made their recommendations before now, so
Well, I
hopefully they
think
don't
they're
feel
gonna do
left
it,
out, they had their chance, I
they're gonna do
guess.
it Thursday, is that right?
What?
They're gonna go Thursday.
They are meeting Thursday evening. I posted a meeting for them.
That's right, they have to
We can
finish.
come
Yes.
here Thursday, if you want.
So I guess the motion's on the floor.
Yes, so Bill, you made
Yes.
the motion.
And I seconded, we discussed it, and I guess we're ready to
To
vote.
vote. All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
and it's unanimous.
Unanimous, Denise? What time are they meeting Thursday, 7?
7 PM. And they are meeting in the meeting room, because this room is occupied.
They're burning the candle on both ends, too. God bless them.
FY16 budget warrant discussion.
So what shall we do
vote.
with the warrant? Nothing? Shall we discuss it at least, or what would you like to do, Betty? I'm all,
Well, you have votes of the board, vote to approve, sign, and close the town meeting warrant.
Correct, you still need to take some action tonight, whether or not you're going to put everything on, or if you're going to, but you need to take action, because we
Sure.
need to publish the warrant.
so I'll go ahead and throw a motion out there, see if this will help us a little bit. I'd like to
Discussion.
make a motion that we adopt all the warrant articles as presented, both the special and the regular, with the exception of Article 17, the affordable housing. That's it, just to allow them on town meeting.
Do I have a second on that? No? Okay. All right,
Did Bill give a second?
no, he's declining to give a second.
Okay.
Shall we talk about this?
Certainly. We don't have a motion on the floor, but we can just open it up to
Okay.
discussion.
Okay.
What's on your mind, Bill?
I don't have a
What's your
problem.
feeling?
The special town warrant, I don't see much of a problem with. If you'd like to go through it real quickly, I've kind of been through it. The only one that, which I was trying to find earlier, if the conservation wasn't on here, am I correct?
What's conservation?
The 200-foot,
No, that's in the annual town meeting.
right, so this one here I'm good with.
So the special is just the few things, the community preservation articles to be carried over, the stabilization article that the auditor said we had to revote, and the transfers.
Right.
And you do have an amended transfer page with that one additional
In the
item. on
back,
there.
right.
Yes.
So I don't have a problem voting on this.
On the
I think-
special.
On the special, I think it's fine. I would make a motion if we went ahead and accepted this the way it's been written and with the article that's been added. I don't have a problem.
Yeah, you saw the addition that was voted tonight? Okay, good.
I don't know if Betty saw it, but I did.
Yes, I had left, it's right,
Right here?
there. Yes, so the only item, those are the transfers, the only item added was the last one. The Conservation
Okay,
Commission,
the stipend.
historically, they don't take stipends, and then they vote at the end of the fiscal year to
okay.
transfer that. So that's just, needs to be added to that.
So shall we just vote the special town meeting warrant with this,
Well, somebody has to
Added.
make a motion to that effect.
I think Joe, Bill
I
just
just
did.
did.
you did,
Okay,
okay. Do I have a
didn't say
second, Joe?
I'll second that,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, special is taken care of.
yeah.
Now we have the annual that we're going to.
So, Bill, what is your discomfort with voting or doing anything at all about the warrant?
I think that we should read the articles down one at a time, and my opinion would be that we go across the board and we each say favorable, unfavorable, and we take a vote on each item.
Okay, I'm in favor of that.
I don't know if Betty's not,
Oh,
or
I
you
think-
I am,
You're okay with that, Betty?
I'm fine.
Okay, then,
So,
that's fine.
just one comment, so there are a couple of articles that, you'll see have, X's in places of amounts. So we are just waiting on, so if I don't have them by, this week, we will use last year's, one of them was chapter 90. Some of them were the transfers from the water department for their free cash number. So those items would still be filled in. Town council has been reviewing it, they will be making recommendations for small language adjustments. So any votes you take, if you vote on it a whole, it should be with, town council's recommendations as well.
Do you want to read the articles, just 1, 2, 3, 4? We can look at them and say favorable or unfavorable. What do you want to do?
You want me to read them?
Do you mind?
I can read them if you want, because
Okay.
you read them.
You did, I thought you knew them.
I do, yep.
Studied them.
Whatever, if you'd like me to, or if.
Yeah,
No,
let me
let
read them, and then you can kind of chime in and before we even start talking about it, give us a little of a Reader's Digest.
Okay.
Because like you did last night, this way you don't have to do both like you did last night. All right.
Doesn't seem
Artic-
like we left.
Yeah, it would have been easy if we just kept working. Article 1, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to petition the state for any sum available on the provisions of Chapter 90, said funds to be apportioned and expended by and under the direction of the State Department of Public Works, Massachusetts Highway Department in parentheses, in accordance with said statutes, or take any other action relative thereto. Now Denise can tell us in layman's term what this is all about,
Well,
and then we can discuss it.
I think we did this already. I think we've done this. I don't,
Have you marked up your?
I've marked up my vote.
Have you? So
I've read
did
every
just-
one of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I can comment if you need additional comments,
Okay.
but, so if you're all set with the
If you
discussion,
want,
then I
I'll
will.
start,
wanna read
I'll
them?
start
Okay.
going across the board.
All right,
I'm favorable.
favorable?
favorable.
Okay.
I've read it twice,
Mhm.
I'm fine with that. Article 2, any questions on that? or
More
Article-
chapter 90 money,
Favorable.
favorable.
I'm favorable on that.
3. We,
So I'll do the synopsis again, so that.
Yep.
Yeah, we should have a little synopsis.
So Article 3 is about, the VFW, the $900 for, paying for their heat and electricity.
Can you do a little synopsis on 2 then?
2 is the additional, that's to actually spend the chapter 90 money. 1 is to petition the state, 2 is to spend it. So once, if we have a chapter 90 amount by the end of the week, I don't think we'll have it. We will use this current year's amount as a placeholder.
Just so people know, chapter 90 is money for roads.
Correct.
okay.
So 3,
Three is-
I was favorable.
I was favorable.
Favorable also.
Article 4 is to accept the $35,000 from the Municipal Electric Light Department as part of a pilot.
Favorable.
Favorable.
Same.
Article 5, you just voted, that is the budget, that will appear as Article 5.
Favorable.
Article 6
Did they say
is,
favorable also?
Favorable, favorable, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Favorable.
thank you.
Article-
Article 6 is the Water Department, so their budget doesn't appear in the budget itself, they're an enterprise fund, so their expenditures appear in 2 different articles, water and sewer.
This one over here.
So if you have questions on that,
The only question is we had on the superintendent's salary, we're going from 59
It's right here.
to 63, which is a small increase
Oh.
We just did.
on that, and I am favorable.
yes, so the superintendent of the water sewer department has asked for an increase. He did do a salary survey and provide some information. He is looking for approximately a $5,000 increase.
And
How's
again,
that
you
sound?
can't tie that to that's a enterprise fund, so it wouldn't.
Correct, so it's not paid through the taxes, it's paid through
Right.
the water and sewer
Right,
rates.
and it doesn't apply to the 2% that we've given all our town employees. It's an enterprise fund, so it's not really.
Well, I'll be honest, you've held the standard with the water and sewer department at the same percentage. Last year, you did entertain a request from a member of the department, and you did grant it, not the superintendent. But they normally apply the same percentages to their
On
employees.
top of what they have given for a wage adjustment?
No, they don't give wage adjustments unless it's licensing and things like that. So they have followed the same standard of 2%. But the superintendent is looking for an increase this year.
So the increase is, what is the percent roughly?
On his, I didn't calculate the percent. And just a reminder, so all of the salaries are split between the water and sewer budget. So the superintendent's salary under Article 6 is only part of it, the remainder of it is under Article 7.
So can you explain the impact of us, let's say that we decided as a board unfavorable action on that
Mhm.
as an enterprise fund, what is the real impact? What if at town meeting, people say, we don't want to support it? Then it won't happen,
Then it won't happen.
just like anything
Correct,
else.
correct. They could choose, and the finance committee may choose not to recommend it.
Yeah.
So on the water side, it's 6.07%.
6.07%.
Yes.
And my question to you is, do you know if there was any added licenses or any training or anything to make that jump?
There was not. It was more,
He's almost at 100,000.
it was more a salary survey where he feels he is in relation to other water and sewer superintendents, and the office that or the department that he oversees. On the sewer side, I know I'm jumping a little bit, it's 5.9%.
Okay.
You want me to go ahead and vote on this?
Did we, I think we said favorable, didn't we?
No, we
No,
haven't
we
said
didn't?
anything.
Okay,
I'm ready to vote on that.
I am.
I can vote. I'm unfavorable.
You're unfavorable, Bill?
Yep.
I vote favorable.
Unfavorable.
On the entire article or that line item?
That light item.
Just that one line item.
That
That's
line.
really important.
Which line item are you speaking about, superintendent's wages?
Mhm,
For both water and sewer?
mhm.
So would you like to make a recommendation on that to FinCom on how you stand?
What would you recommend instead of 6% increase, what would you recommend?
I would recommend 2.5%.
And I would recommend the same. Which would be consistent with what we did with the fire chief.
Right.
Yeah, everything else is
Fine?
Yeah.
All the other line items are
I'm good with
fine?
everything else on both articles.
Okay.
Article 7.
Do you wanna vote on that?
Well, there were
On
two
which one, 6?
two unfavorables.
Two
and
unfavorable and
one
favorable.
But then you were making a recommendation on an amendment to that.
On-
So
they
on the
wanted to-
superintendent's line, so I don't know if you wanted to vote and
Okay.
actually make that a recommendation?
So I'll make a motion on the superintendent's, percentage on the sewer and the water, we're 2.5% on both, on the.
Specifically on the superintendent's salary, right?
Yeah, right.
Right, okay. And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
I'm sorry, studying.
Did you,
I
was
did.
it unanimous? I wasn't paying
No.
attention. No, you didn't vote, okay.
We have dissent.
Yeah, we'll be rioting in the streets.
And did you vote no, or did you abstain
On that,
on the amendment?
on the amendment to only offer him 2.5%?
Yes.
I voted no.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So Article 7 is the sewer side. I know the amendment that Bill and Joe just voted was for only 2%, but you need to vote on the article as a whole.
So the article as a whole, I was favorable.
I'm favorable with the article as a whole.
As amended or as presented?
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
So as presented, you are unfavorable?
They were unfavorable.
Okay,
And the amendment,
All right,
they're
so-
supporting
yeah.
2.5%.
yeah,
Just want to make sure that.
okay.
Yep.
Consistency is what we're trying to get.
And Betty, did you vote on this article?
How do I separate the two?
Article 8 is just the standard article to fix the salary and compensation of all elected and appointed officers of the previous budgetary articles.
Favorable?
Favorable?
Article 9 is, obviously there will be a number in there, it's to transfer from fiscal year 2014 water enterprise retained earnings, in other words, their free cash, to replace water mains and related infrastructure on Governor's Road.
Favorable?
Favorable.
Very favorable.
Do you know what their free cash is?
Yes, I don't have it in front of me, they had 100 and some odd thousand in water and a higher number in sewer. So they had, say, 300,000 between both funds for free cash.
Very good.
Article 10 is the capital request, and I know there's been some concern about the fact that it's,
Okay.
there has been some concern that it used to appear as separate articles throughout the warrant. It's actually not necessary. The capital submitted their recommendation as a plan, so we can certainly put the plan in the budget as one, but still identify what is being included in taxes and what is being borrowed. This article will change slightly. I got back revisions from bond counsel late this afternoon. Really, it's just the language that we have to put in to actually borrow the two items that we were looking to borrow. The aerial ladder truck at $750,000 and the replacement of the communication console at $160,000. So the amounts will not change, just some of the wording will change to comply with the law requirements.
Can we change any of these numbers?
You can, although I think you've discussed the capital at previous meetings.
Oh, that's
Favorable.
$1 million.
Well,
Favorable.
can I ask a question before we
Sure.
even have a discussion? If we wanted to lower that aerial ladder truck even further, could that be done tonight by vote as a line item?
I would say technically it could, but you've already asked the capital improvement to reconsider your last
Sure.
vote at $750. It's capital improvement and finance that go to town meeting.
Got it.
So I don't believe we could convene a capital improvement, bless you, meeting between now and Friday for them to actually revote their article, with their item. You could certainly stand at town meeting and ask to amend if you wanted to, but
Sure. I'll see what they come back at, maybe I'll do that. So at the moment, I will say favorable action, as written.
Favorable.
Article 11 is what we discussed,
God bless
I'm
you.
sorry, thank you.
I guess that was just last night. The other post-employment benefit liability trust fund, the OPEB trust that the auditors identified. We currently have a $3.4 million unfunded liability that we will need to start funding in the near future. This article doesn't look to fund it, it simply looks to create the trust fund.
And
What
I
article,
vote
we have 14?
11.
favorable.
Fast here. I don't know
Favorable
why,
on 11.
Because it's on this page. There we
Favorable on
go.
11.
Favorable on 11.
Article 12 is the first of the revolving funds. So the first one is to reauthorize the VZ Memorial Park revolving fund. The only change is they've asked to increase from $80,000 a year to $90,000 a year.
Favorable.
I'm favorable.
Favorable.
Article 13 is the revolving fund to reauthorize the Pines Recreation Boat Ramp revolving fund for an amount not to exceed $5,000 for the fiscal year.
Favorable.
Favorable.
Did you say, Denise, that we don't have to vote on revolving funds every year if we adopt something?
So currently, that's before the state legislature to decide if it's one of their methods to streamline municipal finance. So that is an option. If they pass that, then yes, we would not have to reauthorize these on an annual basis only if changes are going to be made. Article 14 is another revolving fund to reauthorize the ZBA, their revolving fund for an amount not to exceed $5,000 during the fiscal year.
Favorable.
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 Article 15 is to reauthorize the Bagnell School Summer Program revolving fund at amount not to exceed $115,000 during the fiscal year.
Favorable.
Favorable action.
Favorable.
Article 16 is the first of the Community Preservation Committee articles. And I will tell you, I was just handed a citizen's petition for that article, so all of the Community Preservation Committee articles have now had a citizen's petition submitted. This one is $150,000 for the Groveland Community Trail.
I'm favorable.
And I'll honor the citizen's petition.
I'll honor the citizen's petition.
So the next article, so Article 17 is the one that has been withdrawn.
Yeah, we're in agreement, we're gonna withdraw that. Is that fine with you, Bill?
Yes.
Betty? Under the by the recommendation that we
committee.
took from
The chair.
the chair of the Affordable Housing.
Article 18 is community preservation to restore and preserve the historic entrance of the town's Riverview Cemetery. I have received a citizen's petition for this article.
I'm favorable, regardless of the petition.
I'll honor the position.
Favorable.
Favorable on Betty?
Article 19, community preservation for the restoration and preservation of the historic main building at VZ Memorial Park, 17,500. I have received a citizen petition for this article.
I'm in favor of the article.
Favorable.
Favorable.
Article 20 is $51,000 community preservation for the preservation of historical documents and objects donated to the Langley Adams Library. I have received a citizen's petition on this article.
Favorable.
Favorable.
I'm favorable.
Article 21, $21,000 for the Community Preservation Fund for planning for the improvement of Groveland Square. I have received a citizen's petition on this article, and just before you vote, I will tell you that some of the language in this, town council is recommending, they believe this article is too vague, so they will be making recommendations on this specific article.
So the petition is still valid, even
Yes,
if
it is.
language requires it.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Did you say you received a citizen's petition on this?
Yes, I did.
I will honor the petition.
Unfavorable.
Unfavorable too.
Article 22, $220,000 for community preservation for the revitalization on Washington Park. I have received a citizen's petition on this article.
I'm favorable on Article 22.
Favorable.
I think this board expressed their endorsement for this project many weeks ago, so I favor that, with or without a citizen's petition.
Article 23 is the Community Preservation Fund annual revenues for administrative expenses, debt service, community preservation projects, et cetera. So they are asking for $20,000 be set aside for administrative expense, and then the reserves, $50,000 for open space, $50,000 historic resources, and $50,000 for community housing. And those are standard amounts that they've requested each year.
Can you explain that to me? The 20,000 is for administrative expenses on all projects?
Correct. So that is
Is
something.
that enough?
That's what they stay within a year, is the 20,000. So
Okay.
that covers things like legal expenses that may not have been anticipated. You asked if there were funds set aside for any assistance for procurement. That item would be used. So it's more if they have printing costs or anything like that, it comes out of that line.
Favorable.
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 Did that have a citizen's petition also?
It did not. Article 24 is another repeat article from each year. It's to transfer, this one is for $8,000 to transfer from the Conservation Commission fees account to the purchase of services or their expense account.
Favorable.
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 Article 25, Mike discussed last night, it's the Groveland Wetlands Protection Bylaw regulations. The specific changes that they are looking for is to identify the 200-foot barrier of the mean high water mark of any river, perennial stream, brook, or creek, and an increase to fees with regards to engineering for wetlands projects, if it's required.
Well, let me ask you a question, if you can help us. Anybody can chime in. If we decide not to support this, let's say even at town meeting, how can we not, when it's required by law? We have to be compliant with the new law. How does that work? What's your opinion?
I would say you'd have to defer to Mike, because I don't know what the law is on this section and what's actually required. I do know that this article was put before you last year and it was not approved. I don't know if it was exactly as this, but I do know that this article, in some context, was taken off last year's warrant.
Well, I don't wanna repeat it, but my colleagues did a very good job last night articulating their concerns about curtailment of development or even simple projects in people's properties because we're within 100 or 200 feet of a waterway.
I can't favor this.
I'm unfavorable with it.
I think this is going to handcuff so many people. I think the whole town is an aquifer.
I also think that the voters should have more of a chance to discuss it and have forums on it, what have you, in more input before I can make my decision to press forward with it.
Mike had.
Yes, I see.
Mike has his hand up, I don't know if you want.
Michael?
Yeah, Mike Dempsey, Conservation Commission. The change with the 200-foot buffer is virtually a language change. It's not gonna change anything of what we do, because the state law has the establishes the 200-foot buffer zone. So the trouble with the bylaw now, it's out of sync because it was written, portions of it were written back in 1996 before the Rivers Protection Act was passed, which established the 200-foot buffer zone. So really, and that's the majority of the change, is going through and correcting all the spots where it doesn't reference the 200-foot buffer. But as far as what effect it's going to have, as I say, it's really a language change. It will not negatively affect anybody's permits. It's not going to make any difference because we are forced to go by the 200-foot standard because of state law. So it's really right now, if you look at our bylaw, it looks ridiculous because we don't acknowledge that there's a 200-foot buffer zone. We just kind of ignore it. We're less than what the state has us do. So we are forced to comply with the state, which is 200 feet, and that's what's done. No permits are gonna change, it's not gonna affect homeowners at all. The other changes are very minor, and again, they don't affect homeowners, they affect large, very large development projects where the developer has, much more resources than the average homeowner does to address those things. So I would plead with you to put this on the warrant. I believe that town meeting won't have a problem with it. We've plugged this for the last 2 years to try to get it done. We've had a couple of hearings on it. We're always open to have anybody comment on the rules, and we don't get the comments because I don't think it, I think more than many other towns, the Groveland Conservation Commission is very fair when it comes to permits. We are very, very fair, and, we go overboard to be fair and to work and negotiate with anybody who wants to build something. So I plead with you to put it on the warrant, let the people decide, but I'm confident that they will approve it because it really doesn't affect that many people, and the rest of it is a language change. Thank you.
So, Mike, if the back of my property, I wanted to build a deck,
Yes.
and right now, the bylaw is silent. I know that there's a bog back there or a swamp, that's one of the waterways, and it's within 100 feet. The current bylaw, as written, is silent on that. But with this adoption, now it's going to say that I'm within 100 feet of that water source, and so therefore, in my permitting to build something back there, I have to demonstrate to the local conservation committee how I'm going to protect that water. Is that correct?
Well, not exactly, because you're saying if it's a swamp or a bog. The Rivers Protection Act only protects streams, brooks, rivers. So if, for instance, you had a small stream in your backyard and you said, I want to put a deck, and you're within 50 feet of that deck,
Yeah,
today, you would have to file for a local permit and a state permit with the DEP, but it all goes through conservation. And after the bylaw change, it would be the same exact thing. Because we work together with the state. And in the cases where the state law, which most of the things, the state law is less than what the bylaw says, then, most of the time, we're going by what the bylaw says about distances from things. But in the case where we've got the Rivers Protection Act, and it says that you have to be, 200 feet, you have to file if you're 200 feet away from something, that's stricter than what the bylaw says right now. So we would still go by that, we still go by it now because the state law says we have to do it.
so our bylaws are less restrictive than the state law.
In this case, yes.
So in any case, what will take priority will be the stronger of the two. So whether we align our bylaw with the language of the state or not, the state will still apply.
Yes.
Okay,
The,
now I understand that. That was the thing, because I think what Bill and Betty brought up, at least my consciousness was, well, now we're gonna stop all development within 200 feet of a waterway, and that sounded
No,
frightening.
like I say, it's really no change. It's really a,
So if I'm,
Yeah,
if I'm
just-
building that deck and the current we don't make this change, that current bylaw doesn't say anything,
No.
you're still gonna apply the standards by
Yes,
the
the
state law,
state,
at the
exactly, right.
conservation law.
right.
So we might as well align this with the state law. If not, we still are under the state law. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Because the Conservation Committee is obligated to fulfill the mandate, the legal mandate of the state.
right.
Mike, is the fee structure gonna change at all?
No.
It's right here.
Okay, so this will stay,
That fee that's changing is a rarely used fee.
Right.
That's only like if a large development is putting, our fee schedule is not in the bylaw. That is approved separately. It's, under the control of the commission, and we rarely change it, probably, update it every 3 to 5 years. And we
So-
do so with hearings.
So
too.
as a Board of Selectmen, if we agree, if we vote favorable action, besides Mike or anybody else that wanted to take the floor on this, we want to defend it. Now I know how I can defend it. I understand now. Thank you.
well,
I stand by my unfavorable recommendation, so.
if I can find the page again, what page is it? I just flipped my book and I get all messed up.
It's the end of Article 25. So if you go to Article 26, it's, I don't know.
25, here we go, okay.
So that's the article.
So, Mike, so it's strictly a bylaw change. And the way it's worded, I just was reading the wording of it, it did say, wherever the heck I was, it was reading out, and it was saying bylaw, if you were to, am I correct when I say that? I just read it, I thought.
It's Article 25, isn't it?
Article 25, section order, bylaw, regulations including,
At the very top.
yeah, right. So I think I could feel comfortable going favorable if it's strictly a bylaw change and it's not gonna affect the construction or the home building in Groveland. I think I do have a little better view on it, I guess. I think I do here. So I think I would go, based on it's a bylaw change, and I think I can change to be favorable.
I'm favorable on it.
I'm unfavorable. I see the fees, maximum fees to replace paragraph 10 in section 4 with the following, maximum fees, 7,500, 10,000, 12,500, 15,000. Those are budget busters for me.
I think we've only charged those fees twice since I've been a commissioner for the last 16, 15.
Those numbers scare me, Mike.
Yeah, it's rare. I wish we could, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be great to get some of those fees, but
Okay, so that's 2 favorable, 1 unfavorable.
Yes. Can I ask, just for clarification, I know you discussed it earlier, but what was your position if you were a majority unfavorable? Are you not looking to put it on the warrant? You really didn't make that decision. So I just wanna know for my purposes, if I am putting them on the, I don't think you've gotten, I'd have to look back. I don't think you've had one with 2 unfavorables, but was that your position in this? Oh, you did, Article 20, well, that was a citizen's petition, though. So if in fact you
We
did
have
have.
if we have 2 unfavorables on an article, I think, and the board can support me on this or not, I think we still want to see the article at town meeting. It's just that we will express that we're unfavorable.
That's, and if you all feel that way, that's fine. I
Which-
can write up
which-
your
which-
votes, how you
which
took
strict-
tonight for your.
Strictly stays with the tradition of Groveland. That does not mean that we are technically compliant with the law, which we've already discussed, created a firestorm when we even asked for information a week ago about that.
That's
But
fine.
that's something that we will address at some point in the future. And it might not be this year, but at some point, I would certainly be in favor of being fully compliant with the law. I mean, Andy again brought out a very important item. We vote for something, we allow a warrant, that's it, that's our decision. It's redundant to be asked whether we're favorable or unfavorable. For the people of Groveland, if there's a petition to bring it back on or to retain it, then that's fine. That's democracy at its best. But for
Well-
now, if we have 2 unfavorables, I believe what we'll do as a board, what we should do is we still allow it on the floor, on the warrant, and then we express our opinion to the town why we're against it.
What you were going to say?
I was just gonna say, I think that in the future, what we need to do is establish a firm timeline. You know, as I had told you before, I sent out budget requests in the beginning of December. I didn't get some back until February. We had a deadline for warrant articles. I got some after that deadline. So I do think we need to have a firm deadline so that if in fact you do vote against an article,
This time.
there are still time frames available for
Sure.
people to then come in with a citizen's petition before you formally close the warrant. So I think if that's the approach you want to take, I think that's great, but I think we should put that in a set schedule so that people are all aware of what the process will be. So is that how you'd like me to handle it? So everything will go on, and then I will just provide to you 3 the votes of this evening, so you have them for town meeting.
Right.
And also the finance will have their,
Yes, I will give the finance committee a copy of this with all of your recommendations.
right, but hopefully their recommendations would go on town floor too.
Correct, so the finance committee doesn't need to, they can present their votes that night.
Right.
I have asked them to meet in advance, just like this, and actually go through and figure out where they stand. But yes,
Good.
you will both sides will make your favorable or unfavorable, and have an opportunity to speak on the articles on town meeting floor.
Great. I hate to bring this up, but, so Betty's concern, what is that fee structure then? That's like, why do you need so much latitude on a fee structure that you don't anticipate really charging those maximum fees?
that fee doesn't go to the town of Groveland. What that fee goes towards is this. I think I explained this last night. If there's a large project, it's usually, they have a full-time professional wetland scientist that comes in and draws up their plans. Many times, it's so sophisticated that it's beyond any members of the Conservation Commission's ability to really critique it. So there's provision in the state law, but also provision in the bylaw that in the situation like that, we can hire our own consultant and have the developer pay for it. And so, because consultant fees have gone up so much since that original finance table in there was devised in 1996, you know, we haven't, this last case 2 years ago, we weren't able to hire a consultant to look at, because it fell right in the area where it said under whatever it was, the amount, that there was no the ability to charge a fee, so we couldn't do it. And that's when I asked Betty to help us out and have town council come and argue our case that under the state law, it probably would be allowed, so they did fund $5,000 towards us hiring a consultant. So this will kind of, again, sync up the reality of today with the bylaw and allow us to do it if that's required. But as I say, it's rare.
So an extremely complex project might allow you to approach those maximum fees. It wouldn't be a routine fee structure.
Yes, right.
Okay,
And developers would look at it, because developers look at our bylaw, they want to know,
right.
before they even come in, they want to know what, what they're going to be held to, what standards they're going to be held to. So it'll enable them to get a better idea of what to expect.
Including developers that might be interested in 40B project here in Groveland.
Well, no, because under a 40B, they're not subject to the bylaw.
Right, that's right.
They get a
That's a
break.
scary thought.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding us. That's why the importance of an affordable housing project, but can't happen yet.
Ready?
Okay, ready.
Article 26 is to amend the zoning bylaws to add a new member put to the planning board as an associate member or an alternate, as other boards call it.
Favorable.
Favorable.
Favorable?
Article 27 is to amend the zoning bylaw by deleting the section 1600 medical marijuana moratorium and adding a new special requirements for registered marijuana dispensaries bylaw.
Favorable.
Favorable.
The modification makes it a little bit, still within the state law, but a little even more restrictive, I think.
Well, no, so the law determined that the moratoriums were illegal. So all the communities that jumped initially and put a moratorium in place,
Right,
they
we
were
have to get
determined
rid
to
of
be
that.
illegal. So they require communities to have a bylaw in place to address marijuana dispensaries. So we are required to have one. This was drafted by town council. It's their standard that they've presented to many of their communities, just tweaked to apply to our regulations.
Is that
28?
a vote?
I didn't hear, Joe, did you comment on that?
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah, that's what I was waiting on.
Favorable.
Article 28 is to amend the general bylaws with regards to Chapter 12, Vehicles and Traffic. Again, the language in this may change once town council actually reviews it. This is a requirement of the traffic agreement with Mass DOT for the bridge project. The agreement that was entered into when this project initially started required that you add the following new sections into the general bylaws. The first one is right lane must turn right, Elm Park westbound at Main Street. One way, Main Street southbound at Groveland Street, Elm Park, and yield to pedestrian and crosswalk Elm Street westbound at Station 650.
Favorable.
Favorable action.
Favorable.
Article 29 is the same type of article, only it amends Article 2 of Chapter 12 for stopping, standing, and parking. First one is a stop sign must be installed all stopped at Main Street, Elm Park. To renumber the original section 12-44 to 12-45, and then to amend section 12-45 by adding the new section, parking prohibited on certain streets, Elm Park, both sides from Main Street to limit of work.
Favorable.
Favorable.
The last article is Article 30. As we discussed last night, the Board of Library Trustees had a bylaw that they had been working on. They wanted to implement this bylaw. I recommended that they should have it included with the town's general bylaws as all other boards and committees' bylaws. So this is their bylaw request. It would add a new chapter, chapter 15, to the general bylaws.
Favorable?
Favorable on the library
Favorable?
trustees bylaw.
And that is the last of the articles.
I read this about a week ago, I'm trying to remember, what is the, and I've voted, so I'm not concerned about, what is the change that they're trying to make at the library? Does
Well, so
anybody-
it's not really changes, they're just trying to outline their sort of internal charter, how the Board of Library Trustees operates, what their duties are, what their officers are responsible for. They really wanted a formal document to outline, because we don't have a charter that outlines what the Board of Library Trustees did, they wanted to have a bylaw that identifies what their role is with regards to the library.
And it doesn't change membership or terms
Does
or
not.
anything?
Nope.
Good for them, that's good work.
Thank you, Denise.
So, since you've gone through it, if you would like to make motions to close both warrants now that you've taken your votes.
Somebody like to make that motion to change both the special and the,
I'll make a motion
Annual.
to close the both warrants, special and regular warrant.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Oh, we have this little
You got something else
on the
here?
agenda too,
There's,
the release of those minutes.
okay.
Yes, so there were two additional items that you asked for me to apply to this agenda was executive session minutes from February 24th, 2014, and it was actually an open session on April 22nd, 2014. So I believe the discussion was the Finance Committee was looking for some minutes to talk about discussions regarding the busing property. These are two of those minutes, so if you would vote those and approve them, they could be released since the matter has closed to FinCom.
So one is an executive session and the other is just a regular meeting, is that right?
Yes, it was just a regular meeting.
Do I have a motion on the executive session minutes of February 24th, 2014, and the regular meeting minutes from April 22nd, 2014?
I'll make a motion to approve and release, well,
To-
technically just to approve the executive session February 24th.
Bill was not here.
Bill's not voting.
He was
So
not on the
second.
board.
Second?
Second?
All in
Um,
favor?
Yeah, you made the second, that's right, in favor, so unanimous, the two of us.
Yeah,
Okay,
all set?
all set.
Very good.
Now, just so the public is aware, there was a request made by the Finance Committee member, Bill Cook, regarding discussions that were done in executive session and also an open meeting regarding the busing property, and that's what these minutes are. We did not withhold them, we just actually received them very recently with a very large packet of some minutes that were put together recently. So the Board of Selectmen made a commitment a couple of nights ago to continue to read all of those minutes and get to a point where we can vote on all of them, but we specifically chose these two so that we could get these released to any member of the public, including the Bill Cook who had requested it. So they are available for viewing.
Okay, is that it, Denise?
That is it.
Okay.
Those pictures if you want.
Next regular meeting will be at the Bagnell School, correct?
No, so you have a meeting on Tuesday,
Oh, the
April
Tuesday.
21st, Monday, the 20th is a holiday. So you decided to meet on the Tuesday. And then, so you just let me know if at that meeting you'd like to go through the warrant with finance. I don't know if you want to do that, or if you want to pick another night prior to town meeting.
I think that would be a good idea. Don't you think that'd be a good idea before we gather at the last minute?
Yep.
So, I think we would like to meet on the 21st with finance.
Currently, I don't have much on that agenda, so I can ask finance to attend that night, and you can go through.
Let's keep it light that night, okay?
Would you like me to also invite Valerie Osborne as moderator to be here?
I'd like Valerie here, because this is going to be a little different than our normal town meeting.
I'd like to bring this out publicly if I can. If if we can add an item, maybe for April 21st, it's not too late. The citizens petition to reduce the CPA down to 1%. 247 signatures were secured. The peculiar situation is that when CPA was approved, it was approved at the ballot only. So the folks who put together the petition will not have the opportunity to make a presentation at town meeting. So an idea that was floating around was if the League of Women Voters would to agree to the idea, and we shouldn't broker it, we should just have the parties direct them, direct the parties to the League of Women Voters. It probably would be a good idea to have a debate between those proponents who feel that the 3% should remain on the CPA and those who feel that, or would like to hear, but certainly the proponents that would feel that the 1% is what, the CPA should be reduced to. I think it's kind of a shame that we've missed an opportunity because of a technicality to have a healthy, open discussion about a debatable item. And I think some of the controversy that's existed and some of the comments that we've received, we kind of missed that opportunity. So that's an idea, it's not my idea. But if we would like to invite either a member of the League of Women Voters or ask the question and maybe get an answer by April 21st, then those parties should get in touch with each other, and a representative for the 1% solution and one representative for the 3% solution should be given some time to debate the pros and cons on their position.
I'm in 100% in agreement, that's where I was trying to head last night, and I think it would be a good debate, I think it's a fair debate, and I think it's gonna stop a lot of the, as I call it, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I definitely think we should, I think we owe it to our voters, and I think it's a good idea.
Denise, you had your hand.
Yes, so just to let you know, I reached out to Valerie Osborne this morning, who organizes the League of Women Voters Candidates Night. She was going to reach out to the head of the committee and the moderator who moderates that event to see if that's something that they would be open to. She felt it would be fine. I will be honest, though, I didn't ask if they could have a debate. I asked if they could give a set time for each side, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, to state their case.
Or maybe just like a statement.
And just
Right.
make
Oh,
their,
okay.
present
Yeah.
their statements, present their ideas.
Facts.
I don't know, I don't know if you'll get anywhere with the debate. I think it's better to just state
No, I
your
don't think it has to
position.
be a
and-
debate, I just think it
Um,
needs to be, dialogue.
Correct, so I
talk.
did reach out. Valerie said she will get back to me as soon as possible. So as
Great.
soon as I do hear back, and if that is the case, I will reach out to both parties, and let them know.
Let them know. And maybe that's a reportable by April 21st, just to let us know if it was allowed and whether they
Yes,
agree.
I will report back,
'Cause
but
we're-
by then, we would
It's
have.
not our decision.
Correct,
We're
and
just
I will
trying-
publicize, we will put it on our website if
Good.
it is not, I don't see it being a problem.
Good.
But I did want to ask and make sure it was okay, so
There you go.
I will let you know.
Very
The-
good.
In the fairness of hearing all sides.
Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Seconded.
So moved. What do
All
we
in
do?
favor?
It's
Aye.
it's 8 o'clock. What do we do at
I
that
know.
time? We usually
Go
get
on.
out at 10.
You just, that's getting wound up.
Thank you. Well done.
Okay.
Are those your keys?